Hello everyone, I am the MGP. No, not your MGP, not the multi-genre project. I'm the Mahatma Gandhi project. Alright, let me go right into his life. Let's start with his early life. He was born on October 2nd, 1869 in Porbandar, India. He was the son to his parents, Karamchand and Putlibai Gandhi. In 1883, he married a woman by the name of Kasturbai, and they were both at the age of 13. And you guys are probably wondering, why would somebody get married so young? Well, in India back then, it was a custom to get married at that young using arranged marriage. In 1888, his first son was born, and immediately he had to go to England to study law. And after he studied law in England, he went to South Africa. In 1893 of April, he sailed to South Africa and worked at an Indian law firm in South Africa. This was the first time he experienced racial discrimination. This really got him to think about what he really wanted to do about racial discrimination. And very soon, he left back for India, but he promised South Africa that he would return if they needed his help. So now let's move on to one of Gandhi's greatest movements in his life, Satyagraha, which in English translates to nonviolence. So in 1904, he published a weekly journal that is known as the Indian Opinion. And his first real month of Satyagraha was in September of the same year in Johannesburg. And he protested against the Asiatic Ordinance, which prevented Indian immigrants to be in Transvaal. In 1908 January, 1908 January, he was imprisoned for this act of protest. Now, Gandhi's second month of Satyagraha was in 1908 August. This is when Smuts, a British government official, broke his promise to Gandhi, and this is when Gandhi protested against that by burning registration certificates and making a bonfire. In November of 1913, he did his third Satyagraha protest, which is known as the Great March, in which 2,000 Indian miners followed Gandhi across the Transvaal border in Natal. Now, most of you guys have probably heard of the Salt March, Gandhi's famous Salt March. This happened in March 12, 1930. It was a campaign of tax resistance on salt, because the British government was monopolizing the salt industry. So Gandhi started this march in Dandi, Ahmedabad, and went all the way to the seacoast. This was a 24-day walk, which was 240 miles long. And over 80,000 supporters were imprisoned just for supporting Gandhi in this march. Now, on a brighter note, independence. On August 15, 1947, Gandhi fasted and prayed, and he was finally granted his country's independence. This is what he wanted his whole life, and he finally achieved it. It was one of the most momentous occasions in his life. Now, on a more sad note, his death. He was attending a prayer meeting. He had normal prayer meetings, and when he was attending one of them in Birla, India, a courageous man came out of the audience, came out of the crowd, and shot Gandhi with a gun with 3 shots to his chest. This man is notoriously known as Nathuram Godse. Now, a little background on Godse. Exactly a year later from murdering Gandhi, he was executed and hung to death for such a bad crime. Now to talk a little bit about our hero, Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King followed Gandhi immensely. Anytime Gandhi had teachings or beliefs, MLK Jr. was following every little bit of advice. Gandhi's honesty, purity, and nonviolence was something that MLK Jr. admired. And so for all we know, if Gandhi wasn't alive, racial discrimination may still be present in America today. Now, to give you an overall feel about everything I just talked about, I have a movie made with clips of his life.
What the hell is going on? I don't know, sir. The agent got a telegram, and it just said he is coming. We're at the time of the train. Who the hell is he? I don't know, sir.
Some men change their times. One man changed the world for all time.
My name is Gandhi, Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Well, whoever you are, we don't want you here. I suggest you get back on that train before it leaves.
They seem to want me. 100,000 Englishmen simply cannot control 350 million Indians if those Indians refuse to cooperate.
The story of one man whose voice spoke out for millions.
Gain independence. We must prove worthy of it.
From his humble beginnings
You're an ambitious man, Mr. Gandhi.
I hope not.
to his ultimate triumph. He was the conscience of all mankind.
Where there's injustice, I always believed in fighting. I will fast as a penance for my part in arousing such emotions, and I will not stop until they stop.
His torment ended a nation's suffering.
I remember that all through history, the way of truth and love has always won.
His greatest weapon was peace.
In this cause, I too am prepared to die. There is no cause for which I am prepared to kill. I want to change their minds, not kill them for weaknesses we all possess. I want to document coldly, rationally, what is being done here. I believe non-cooperation with evil is a duty, and that British rule of India is evil. Nevertheless, it is my duty to sentence you to 6 years in prison. Since your arrest, the riots have hardly stopped. If we obtain our freedom by murder and bloodshed, I want no part of it. Poverty is the worst form of violence.
But do you really believe you could use non-violence against someone like Hitler?
What you cannot do is accept injustice from Hitler or anyone. You must make the injustice visible. I am a Muslim, and the Hindu, and the Christian, and the Jew, and so all of you.
He offered the world a way out of madness.
Men honored him. Women loved him. An empire feared him. A nation worshipped him.
Long live Mahatma Gandhi!
Albert Einstein said, generations to come will scarce believe that such a one as this, ever in flesh and blood, walked upon this earth.
Okay, so that gives you an overall view of everything I've been talking about, and I hope it really touched you. Now, I want to recreate something that Gandhi did a lot, and that is protesting. So, can I have some volunteers for this protest? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Sorry.
And you go the other side. Get us in slide up. Okay, so I'm gonna recreate a protest. Most of you guys probably know what this is. Alright, go.
We are the 99%! Let it go down! We are the 99%! Let it go down!
Alright, thank you. So, most of you guys probably know what this protest is. If you don't, you really need to get out more often. So this is Occupy Wall Street. As you can see, we have the 99% protesters and the 1% rich men. So you're probably wondering, what does this present day issue in our American economy have to do with somebody that was alive 143 years ago, like Gandhi? Well, the protesters in Occupy Wall Street are using Gandhi's principles and theory to win what they believe in. So this is what Gandhi believed in. First, they will ignore you. Then they'll laugh at you. And then they'll fight you. And then you win. So it obviously worked for Gandhi. He got his independence. So let's compare it to Occupy today. First, they'll ignore you. So some protesters began at the start of the Occupy, and the government was just like, oh, whatever, it's just a few people. Then the next step was, then they'll laugh at you. The crowd of protesters started to increase, and the government was like, whatever, it's just a few people trying to do a silly protest. And then they'll fight you. The government clearly got scared because, for example, at UC Davis, police officers pepper sprayed students that were protesting for Occupy Wall Street. So the last step is, will they win? So that's what they're trying to aim for using Gandhi's principles from 143 years ago. And it worked for Gandhi, it worked for MLK Jr., so let's see if it works for the Occupy protesters today. Now, in overall, Gandhi has affected America in numerous ways. And I hope my teachings and belief can continue to pass down generation to generation. Lastly, to leave you on a more emotional note, always speak your mind and express your ideas. Because as I used to say, you can torture me, you can chain me, you can even destroy my body, but you can never imprison my mind. Thank you.